What's happening, mate? Do you know?
No,
We've just had a big explosion. There appears to be something ahead of the train in the track.
Explosion on train, yeah?
Or a bang on
We're
the train.
trying to get down to the system, but the smoke is really heavy.
It could be serious. We're not too sure yet.
Please listen to me very carefully. I need you to move this way,
So we'll
please.
get ambulances to you wherever I can, okay? Okay, thanks, mate.
10 years ago in Beeston, Leeds, 3 young men from this community launched a terrorist attack in London, killing 53 people. The attack started a decade of soul-searching in communities such as Beeston and other Muslim neighbourhoods across the UK as to why young Muslim men were driven to kill their fellow British citizens. As we commemorate the 10th anniversary of 7/7, we asked what has been the impact of the 7/7 bombings.
I think it's a community now that feels to a degree insecure. It feels a community that's under profile. It's a community that I think feels mistrusted to a large extent. And I think what we have seen in the decade since the atrocities of 7/7 took place is just a very considerable rise in Islamophobia.
After 2007, it's allowed young Muslims to begin to question their identity. I'll tell you something, I became more religious after 7/7 because I felt there was a question of who am I? You know, young Muslims didn't know who they were. Many of us were being bullied, we were being targeted by our friends, by our colleagues, people that we knew, and we were questioning ourselves, who are we really? But when 7/7 came, you know, I was only 9 or 10, so I didn't really remember much of what happened. You know, it didn't really impact me until the next couple of weeks when I went to school, and as I got older, it impacted me more and more, especially when you've got a beard like me.
We never thought that the perpetrators would ever come from Leeds and also will belong to the Muslim community, and it has had a huge impact, you know, on the Muslim community and the wider community. Every time a terror attack takes place, you know, it reinforces that belief that Muslims are involved, and perhaps all Muslims are, you know, potential terrorists, you know. And as a result, you know, when that kind of feeling arises in the minds of people, it alienates young people, it isolates young people because they are seen as potential suspects, and that's hugely damaging.
Following 7/7, the government introduced the Prevent Agenda, which was aimed at changing Muslim hearts and minds and putting communities, Muslim leaders, mosques and imams in the vanguard of the fight against radicalisation and extremism. Critics, however, have blamed Prevent for spying on Muslims and creating a climate of Islamophobia. On balance, has Prevent and the government's counter-terrorism strategy achieved its aims?
Prevent is not something that is working, it's not working, it has failed, it's exacerbated the issue of Islamophobia and anti-Muslim hate as well. The Muslim people feel that they're targeted because of that, so it's definitely worsened it, without a doubt. The counter-terrorism and security, the whole narrative and the whole legislation has actually worsened the situation, specifically for the Muslims.
People are going to be radical no matter where you go, so they shouldn't stereotype it to what kind of religion it is. So in some instances you could say that it's just targeting people for no reason. They're trying to be more safer, yes, I understand that, but in some ways it's a bit going overboard.
I think particularly the new legislation that's been implemented is very contentious, to say the least. I think particularly the aspect of it that relates to nurseries and schools is what's causing considerable dismay within the Muslim community.
Millions and perhaps even billions of pounds have been poured into intelligence, policing and community initiatives to stop the radicalisation of Muslims. Yet over 700 British Muslims have left their home, friends and family to join the Islamic State. It is no longer just young men, but schoolgirls, women and families with children who have left Britain for Syria. How do we understand this trend, or why is it happening?
You know, I've got to be honest and say that's an extremely difficult question to answer. I mean, it's something I think all of us, Muslim and non-Muslim alike, ponder.
In these kind of cases, religion, the way the religion is interpreted by certain people, that hasn't really helped the situation. It's made the situation even worse.
There needs to be partnership, cooperation, engagement between the Muslim community and the governments. You know, this approach that the government can just point fingers towards the Muslim community and the Muslim community just pointing fingers toward the government is not going to work. You know, if we are going to have a sustainable, intelligent solution to the poisonous ideology and the effects of that ideology that's affecting us all, there needs to be a partnership, a cooperation between various stakeholders. That includes the government, security services, media, the Muslim community.
Not far from here, 3 families in Bradford have been torn apart following the decision by 3 sisters to join their brother fighting with ISIS in Syria. It is clear that the government's tough rhetoric against extremism has failed. Increased surveillance and erosion of our civil liberties have had limited success. The sooner we take the political and ideological posturing out of the issue and really understand why Muslims are being driven to the ISIS death cult, the sooner we can address the causes of the rise in homegrown and international extremism and terrorism. A whole community approach is needed to achieve this.